Some may ask, is there a word from the Lord? And I've come to remind you, yes, there is. The Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 10 and verse 33, makes up the biblical textual portion from which I'd like to launch our discussion this morning. That verse simply says this: but a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was. And when he saw him, he had compassion on him. For the next 12 to 17 minutes, I want to invite your attention around this idea of humanity's greatest need.
All right.
Humanity's greatest need. One time, 4 distinguished speakers discussed the subject of humanity's greatest need. Each presented a very different viewpoint. Pearl Buck, the novelist, said that the great need of humanity is for a philosophy that will give one an answer for the question, why should I live? Carl Sandburg, the poet, said that the chief need for humanity is a great respect for personality and a vast reverence for the human spirit and mind. Dr. Roy Moulton said, a scientist, he declared that humanity's greatest need is a long perspective and vast patience. A fourth gentleman, an educator, thought that our greatest need is a renewal of simple human decency. Here's where faith comes in. He stated that our faith is not a cosmetic, but a crusade. After all, in the absence of human decency, what is the good of philosophy? Are y'all praying with me here? In the absence of human decency, what is the good of patience? In the absence of human decency, what is the good of a long perspective and a reverence for human spirit and mind? All of these things I think are important. A framework out of which to live, a why, a purpose for living, a healthy respect for human decency, for humanity, a healthy respect for patience. All of these important, but none more important than an exercise of human decency that expresses itself in what this text presents to us in terms of compassion and kindness. Well, we're living in a very perilous time. We're living in a time when people have been emboldened to be bullies. It comes from the highest echelons of our political system. People are encouraged to be cyber bullies. Whoever thought we would live in a time when we'd have a president-elect who felt it all right to tweet all kinds of ridiculous responses to people with whom he differs or disagrees, seeking to bully them, seeking to discredit them, seeking to create in them fear and to create in us fear of critique as a society. And I want to remind you here today that no one, I don't care how high he or she may be, is beyond critique. The last thing you or I need to stop doing as people is thinking. Stop using our minds and stop evaluating. There is a danger in unquestioning. There's a danger in not being watchful and vigilant as to what's going on, there's a danger in not speaking up and raising critical questions and just letting things go on. How do you think we ended up with human slavery? How do you think we ended up with the Holocaust? Because of unquestioned, uncritical obedience. That's how we got there. And here he is, the president-elect of the free, of the United States of America, the leading country in the free world, and he's engaging in bullying, cyberbullying. But there's just not cyberbullying, there's also social bullying. There's also physical bullying. Not only that, but we're living in a time of hate-filled rhetoric. It's a hate-filled political rhetoric, a hate-filled racial rhetoric, a hate-filled national rhetoric, a hate-filled religious rhetoric. I want to remind you today that if God loves one of us, he loves all of us. All of us are his children, red, yellow, black, and white. All of us are precious in his sight. The hymn simply says, Jesus loves the little, y'all ought to help me here. He loves his little children. He loves all the children of the world. He loves you. He loves me. Yet we find it convenient to demonize one another. We find it convenient to talk down about one another, to belittle one another, to undermine one another. And it's a shame. Because really, when we think about it in terms of being reduced to our simplest compound, at best, even with inflation, we're still only valued at about $1.50. $1.50 clumps of dust and dirt here and there in this room sitting next to one another. I know dressed up clumps of dirt. I know wearing Chanel, smelling good, wearing Lily Ann and St. John, looking good. Stacey Adams and Bill Blass, looking good. Haircut, looking good. In pretty good shape, looking good. But at the end of the day, at best, $1.50. Now you know you need some Jesus to add some value to your life. But this is really the point that I'm making. How can one clump of dust look down its nose at another clump of dust and criticize? So part of the problem is some of us really think we're better than other folk.